Hi, it's Stacy, and today is May 18th, 2025, as I record the Director's Cut commentary for this wedding gig log that you're getting ready to see. It was Kyle and Rachel's wedding gig log, and it took place back on November 7th, 2020. Now, this is something that I started doing back during the pandemic when we didn't have a whole lot of weddings happening. I decided to go back and look at some of the older gig logs and just add my commentary and maybe look at some things that maybe we didn't notice before and just look at it from a different perspective. But since I don't have any weddings on this particular weekend that I'm recording this commentary, which is May 18th, 2025, I thought we'd go back and look at Kyle and Rachel's wedding gig log, and I'll add some different commentary for that, which of course took place 4.5 years ago. Now, I also want to mention that I will be adding the original video to this gig log at the end of this video, so make sure you check that out. You'll find it when the SNDJ Entertainment logo pops up at the end of this video. We'll have a link to the original gig log if you'd like to see it with all the original music and all that, just as it was recorded back on November 7th, 2020. Now, first of all, I want to mention I am not in my van in this particular wedding gig log, and I briefly mentioned that in the original intro, but just a couple days before this wedding took place, I was traveling with my family back from Jacksonville, and we hit a deer on the interstate, and that messed up the front end of my van, so my van was out for about 3 weeks or so I had to rent a van, so that's why I wasn't in my van. Anyway, here's a look at my setup, and you can see my facade there. This was the first wedding that I had used that white facade, and I was very proud of that, and I'm still using it to this day, and I still get a lot of compliments for it. Now, really, the only thing that's changed is I don't put those par cans on the stands there that you see right there up below the speakers. I put those actually behind the facade now and let the light bounce off the ceiling instead of having them directly in people's eyes like that. So I think it just looks better, and I've started doing that, and it seems that works out a lot better. So if you watch any of my recent gig logs, you'll notice that the lights are now behind the facade. Now, H Wedding Bar in there, that of course is a beautiful place. I've done a lot of weddings there, and I got more weddings coming up there in the near future, so you'll be seeing more gig logs coming from there. But I've got a lot of wedding gig logs right here on my YouTube channel from there. And I also want to mention that Kyle and Rachel kept their original wedding date. And by the way, there's my Fender Passport there that I had set up for the ceremony outside. But anyway, they kept their original wedding date. This was not a rescheduled event. They actually booked in February of 2020, and they decided to keep their original wedding date. Now, Florida was one of the states that did not fully shut down, so they were able to keep their original wedding date, still invite most of their guests there, and I think that Florida benefited from that, not fully shut down like that. But that's what our governor, Ron DeSantis, decided to do, was to keep the state pretty much open for the most part. Now, there's that rental van that I rented. That was a Dodge Caravan. It was a pretty nice van from what I remember, but of course it wasn't my van, but my van again was out for about 3 weeks, so I had to use that for a little while. Now, as we take a look at the ceremony site once again, I do want to mention something that happened on this particular Saturday, and I'm sure you'll probably remember where you were when you heard this, but this was on November 7th, 2020. This was the Saturday right after the 2020 presidential election, and it was the day that they actually called the election for Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, right after I recorded that last segment where I was showing you my ceremony setup, I started getting texts and alerts on my phone saying that they'd called the election for Joe Biden. And, we started seeing all the Facebook messages and all that, but that was the day that they did that. And, of course, I noticed a lot of guests were looking at their phones and everything. And, of course, while this reception was taking place, that was when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris gave their acceptance speech that night. So, anyway, that's one memorable event that happened at this particular wedding, and I'll never forget that when I was there. And, of course, people there had differing opinions about what happened with the election, but we won't go into all that. We all know what happened with that. Now, as we take a look at H Wedding Bar in there, you'll notice they do have a loft up there. I've never set up there in that loft, and the reason why is because I'd highly discourage setting up in a loft for mainly a couple of reasons. Number one, you're disconnected from all of the the guests and everything there, and they have to run up the steps to try to make requests. But you also lose the bass and everything. And I've talked about this in other weddings and other videos before, where it's not really a good idea to have a DJ set up above the crowd like that, because you lose a lot of the bass and the quality just really isn't that good. And of course, it's really hard for us to carry the equipment up the steps too. Most DJs will tell you that when you have to carry everything up there. If you're on floor level, you can just easily just roll everything in on a cart. So most people will tell you, that that's probably not a good idea. And a lot of times when I've done weddings there, the bride and groom actually like to have their head table set up there, or maybe just the bride and groom's table. So I've seen them do all kinds of things up there. Anyway, here we are into the toast, and I remember that the toast went really well. Now, this was the father of the bride here, and this was Rachel's father, and I'll tell you what, he was really a lot of fun and a lot of just really a fun guy to get to know. And I remember talking to him and having a nice lengthy conversation with him during the reception. But he was just a really fun guy, and he gave a really funny speech. Of course, I didn't get the entire speech on video, but I just remember everybody laughed that night. But I did get a couple segments of it. And again, you can see the original audio, or excuse me, see the original video with the original audio at the end of this video. So if you would like to see this gig log uninterrupted without me talking through it, you can be sure and click on that at the very end of this video. But now, like I said, he was just a lot of fun, and really, we had a great time there. And we're going to get ready to move into the cake cutting now. As you can see, they had a lot of cupcakes there. And of course, this is a lot of fun. Now, where they're set up there, I've set my DJ table up in that corner before too. You'll notice that in a lot of other gig logs. And really, I've set up just about everywhere you can imagine there at Abe's Wedding Barn. I've done ceremonies outside, in the back, and outside in the front. I mean, the good thing about Abe's Wedding Barn is it's really endless when it comes to receptions or where you can set up and ceremonies and things like that. You really don't have. You really have a lot of places you can set up and do a lot of a lot of different things there. It's one of the best things I like about Abe's Wedding Barn is that you just have a lot of opportunities on where you can set up and where you can do things. And I've had other brides have set up like cornhole stations outside, where people go out there and play games and stuff like that. So it's just really a good place if you want to have outdoor activities during the reception too. Of course, this was November, so they probably didn't want to have a whole lot of outdoor activities at that time. Now here we are getting into the father-bride dance, and then we'll do the mother-groom dance and the bride and groom's first dance. Now I do want to mention that over off to the right you'll see a doorway by the bathroom, and that's the groom's room, and I've shown that before in another gig log. But they have a pool table in there, they have a flat screen TV, and a lot of times during football season, a lot of the people want to go in there and watch football, especially during college football season. Now this particular group didn't, but a lot of times they will do that, and it's always a lot of fun when they go in there and shoot pool and watch college football. During the fall, really when you're doing a wedding reception, sometimes you just can't compete with football in the South anyway. So anyway, that's a lot of fun and really a good place for the grooms to get ready. Now here we are with Kyle and Rachel's first dance. Now I could tell that they really put in a lot of effort for this. The song that they were dancing to was REO's Speedwagon's Can't Fight This Feeling, and you'll see that they really put in a lot of effort into working on this particular dance, and everybody started cheering. And again, you could see this uninterrupted in the original gig log, which we posted at the end of this video. But there they go. See, they were having a great time. Now, one thing I do want to mention, we get into open dancing here in a second, you're going to notice everybody was out there dancing at just about every song. And this particular group, they were like really into line dances. I remember Kyle and Rachel had sent me a list of a lot of line dances they wanted, and a lot of them I'd never even heard of, but I played them, and this group really enjoyed them, and they just really had a great time. And you'll see that here in just a second, and also in the original gig log. Now here we are getting into open dancing, as you can tell. And there they are, starting out with the Cupid Shuffle. That's what I normally start off the open dancing with, the Cupid Shuffle, because it's one that gets everybody out there on the dance floor. And, usually that's kind of contagious. Once everybody starts dancing, it's usually pretty contagious and everybody stays out there. And there they are doing some more dancing there. You can see, this, like I said, this was just a really fun party group. And you can tell that they were really having a good time. Now, I don't know if they were professional dancers and mixed in with this, but you could tell that they really knew what they were doing when they were dancing. You'll see that throughout the rest of this gig log. Now, this couple here, I was wondering if they were like professional ballroom dancers or something, because you see how they're really coordinated there. It looks like they've been practicing that. It didn't look like that they just really just got out there on the dance floor and just did that on the spot or anything. Maybe they did, I don't know, but they looked like they had some kind of professional training or something to me anyway. But I never did ask them. And here we are getting back into more open dancing. Now, I don't know what Kyle and Rachel have been up to since the wedding. I really haven't talked to them since right after the wedding, so I hope that they're doing well. And I might have to reach out to them and send them a copy of this video, or a link to this video, so that they can hear my director's cut commentary for their wedding 4.5 years ago. But I hope that they're doing well. And, like I said, they had a great group of friends and family. They all came up and made requests. And, like I said, the line dances were just really, really popular that night. And that guy there in the middle there, the guy with the beard, I remember he came up and made a lot of requests. He was having a lot of fun. And, I remember he was really enjoying himself as well. He looked like he might have been a professional dancer too. Like I said, I don't really know if he was, but he looked to me like he probably was. Okay, and here we are. We get back into some more dancing. Now, there I am talking, and we were just, still into open dancing there. This was getting on toward the end of the night. as the reception progressed. And then we did our fake lead, which you'll see here in just a second. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But now, here we are playing a slow song, and everybody got out there and danced that one. You can see that they're all having a good time with that. And again, this, like I said, this was just a fun group. Here we are doing some more line dances, and they were enjoying that. And, the wobble, the electric slide, the Cupid shuffle, those were all very popular that night. I think we played the biker shuffle and a couple of others. And like I said, they actually made me a list of a lot of line dances I'd never even heard of. And they got out there and danced, had a great time to them. So that's always what's important. You always want to make sure that you do what's going to make everybody out there have a good time. And there they are, getting back into more line dances there as the crowd starts to thin out a little bit. Now here we are doing the fake lead. Now back there behind me, you can see the groom's room part of it. You can see the part of that pool table I was telling you about. And I showcased that in another wedding gig log, where I actually take you in there and show you where the pool table was and the flat screen TV. But there you go. There's Kyle and Rachel there as everybody moved outside to form two lines for the fake lead. Now you'll notice that they moved all the tables out of the way to create the dance floor. Originally when we got there, there were tables right there where the dance floor was. So, they just moved the tables out of the way and created a dance floor there. Now one thing I do have to mention about Eight's Wedding Barn is that the bride and groom, they actually get a key to that place, and they can decorate it however they want to. And back there in that closet behind the DJ table that you see, that's where they keep all the tables and all the chairs and everything. And basically the bride and grooms get to come and they get to decorate it however they want to. They just have to put everything back the way it was at the end of the night. So they'll break down all those tables and put them back in the closet, and then of course that's all just a big open space at the end of the night. So that's one thing that brides and grooms really like. They have that flexibility to do whatever they want to. So yeah, that's always always a plus on that one. Now here we are, look at that. See, they're doing another line dance there and having a good time. Looks like they're doing the cha-cha slide there. So yeah, it looked like they were just having a good time. I was enjoying it too, but this was just a really fun group. And probably about this time that this all was taking place, I imagine Joe Biden was probably giving his acceptance speech about this time. Not sure, maybe he had already given it, I don't know, but I remember that this of course was the night that he did give his acceptance speech, and a lot of people were looking at that on their phones. Now there we go, there's another look at my setup, and you can see that facade. Now the only another difference I want to mention about my facade is that I believe in this particular wedding I put two par cans back there underneath the facade. Now I usually just put a bar light there, and that's what usually lights that up. And that really makes a big difference. I've had a lot of photographers tell me too that they really like how that's set up, because they're not seeing a lot of wires hanging down off the table, and not seeing a bare tripod and that kind of thing. And there we're playing Baby Shark for the kids. Now here we are doing the bride and groom's final dance. Now as I mentioned before in other weddings, and you'll watch in other gig logs, I actually have our bride and groom stand in the middle of the dance floor, or actually they're dancing in the middle of the dance floor, and I ask everybody to form a circle around them, which is what this bride and groom did. And a lot of times what the crowd will do is they'll hold hands and form a circle around them, or they'll just kind of slow dance with their significant other, and and it just really depends on the bride and groom and the crowd. Now here I am doing the final wrap, so I kind of edit this out a little bit, and I just did that from the van, the rental van there. And here we are. Here's my little congratulations to our newest bride and groom, Kyle and Rachel. So anyway, that's where we're going to leave this. I hope you enjoyed watching this gig log. I really enjoyed looking back at this wedding with you. It's always a lot of fun. We'll have to do more of these. But anyway, if you want to see the original gig log, as I mentioned, from this particular wedding, just stay tuned. In just a few minutes, you're going to see the video pop up, and you can watch the original gig log. So we got more gig logs to come. So until next time, practice and enjoy.